if anyone has a question.
Stuart, I have a question about translating the practice into actions in our daily life. How do you go in and find answers to situations? Is it a waiting process for you, or how do you approach that?
You know, I don't approach it, Zach. You know, it's like, for instance, yesterday, it just came to me all of a sudden. I've been talking, I'm not going to write another book. And then it just came to me out of where, you know, the universe, all these talks that I give are on a very different level than what I used to talk years ago. And they would be perfect for another book. So I asked a few of my students if they would transcribe the talks. And it turns out that Tony was already doing it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I will edit them and have a book that people can read, that they'll be able to read these talks, you know, in a book. I'll have to edit them because the verbal thing is, the written word is always a little different than, you know, the verbal, you know, word when you give a talk. But I don't know, these things just come to me. And it's like an inspiration. I don't know what's going on there, but you know, it's you know, what is very interesting is, you know, it's like an inspiration that comes, and it just feels like this has to get done. You understand? It was the same thing in, you know, wherever I lived and whatever I did, it was always like that. The inspiration came, and okay, that really feels like it needs to get done. And then I would pour the energy into doing it. And the energy of doing it came from years of training, of having a system inside that was not afraid to take on that project, that was not afraid to do what I had to do. And then I would allow the energy to guide me so the project got done. I mean, how well, you know, that's how, you know, I mean, you've probably been in Texas, Denton, you know, that's how that house got built. You know, it was an inspiration. I mean, honestly, I told Bob what I wanted to do, and I said, I think you're gifted enough to be able to design a house like that. 3 months later, he came back with the plans, and 8 months after that, you know, we had that house. It was like a miracle that it came up that way. But it was purely an inspiration that came to me, and I envisioned it. And I said, this is possible. I'm going to have to work my ass off to make it happen, but it's possible to do stuff like that. And, you know, for many years, I basically have lived my life that way. It's like yesterday, you know, this would be an incredible book. It would be a book that people could have by their bedside, read these talks, and you know, and might inspire them to deepen their inner work. And now it'll get done. It'll get done. But I've kind of lived my life, even before Rudy, I used to live that way. You know, trying not to interfere with inspiration, trying not to interfere with projects, you know, that, you know, for me, that really have to do with the development of my spiritual life in the world. In the world, you know? And I think when you open up inside, these things come. They come because God sends them to you. And You have to have the guts and you have to have the, the capacity inside to then make it happen. And frankly, what I've learned is when you start doing stuff like this, it helps you build a chemistry inside that makes it possible for you to do it. It really does. I mean, I'm not kidding. It helped me be, to do things I never dreamed I could do in my life, but doing them one after the other made it possible for me to visualize what I can do if I really approach it, by following the guidance of the energy inside myself. And that's always the way, or at least, while I've been doing this meditation for many, many years, that I've brought the spiritual practice into my life, into my everyday life. I remember we had this statue of Rudy. I'm sure you all, I don't know how many have seen that statue, but I mean, the project was like, I became like a midwife. The artist, it took almost years of nurturing him to help him give birth to that statue. It really was true. That's how that statue came into being. I was like a midwife. The artist was giving birth. It was the same thing with Bob in that house. I was like a midwife, extracting it from them, to design that house. But there's a part of me that really believes that people have amazing creativity inside themselves. And when they begin to discover it, it comes out. It comes out. Sometimes they need somebody else to guide them and help them give birth to it, but it will come out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just out of curiosity, are you talking about the bronze Rudy up in Big Indian or the marble down in Denton?
No, it's a bronze that no, it's another statue of Rudy that right now is in Portland or in Eugene, Oregon. And I used to have it in my house, and then I sent it out there, and it's a different statue. Actually, it's that one in Big Indian. I always thought they should get rid of that thing. It just never had the energy of Rudy in it, but that wasn't my problem. But this one's a pretty good one, the one that's out in Eugene. It really has a lot of Rudy in it. Not completely, but it's pretty powerful.
Cool.
So, that's basically how you take the spiritual thing and you make it into something that becomes part of your life, very practical way of living. And it's in everything, in your family, you bring that spiritual energy in terms of compassion, love, listening to people. That's a very spiritual thing, just being able to listen to people who are close to you. And they're going to have all kinds of divergent ideas and things you don't agree with, but listen, let them be. Let them explore their lives. I mean, I told you what happened with my daughter. I came here figuring I'm going to teach her this meditation and train her. And then I realized she needs something else. I began to listen to her, what she needed. And from that point on, miracles started happening. Really, I'm talking miracles. A major corporation, called her up and they're giving the 5th interview for her to become the assistant to the CEO, the CFO of this major corporate. I mean, it was incredible. And all turned around when I started listening to what her real needs were. And now she comes to me and she wants to meditate. If I get involved in this world, she said, I got to get very strong and I need to learn how to do this deep meditation. So it all comes back. You understand? It all comes back. But all of that is part of making these classes practical into something that is part of your everyday life, to build your life. I mean, years, ago, I started writing these novels, this fiction, and that's really hard to write, much harder than writing a nonfiction book. And I knew I needed to attract somebody who would really be a master at it, who could teach me. And this woman manifested in my life, wrote 2 bestsellers. She won Emmy Awards, for doing documentaries with PBS and CBS. And she just manifested in my life. And boy, what I learned from her was a treasure. But I knew I needed to listen to somebody like that who could provide me with that kind of knowledge. And it was incredible how she came into my life. And she and I became very good friends, and it was really something very special that took place. And I was so grateful for what she was teaching me. It enabled that book, Little Sisters, to come into being, and my book, Madness Falling from the Sky, to become into being. Without her training, I could have never really done those books in the way they should have been done. So we need teachers, we need people to show us and guide us. And we attract them when we are ready for them to come into our lives. On all levels, not just gurus and spiritual things, but on every level, Does anyone else have a question you'd like to ask?
I do. I often feel like the energy goes from my hara straight to the root chakra and doesn't pass through the sex. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just what it feels like.
Well, it's got to go through the sex to get to the, chakra at the base of the spine. It has to go. You might not feel it, but it has to go through there. And then eventually, as it continues, then eventually it opens up and you begin to experience the power of Tantra, the power of, union of male, female, what takes place in the sexual area. But it has to go through there in order to get to the base of the spine. Otherwise, the Kundalini will not be activated, because the Kundalini is really, it's that energy of the sexual area giving birth to Kundalini. So don't worry about it, because it's going through the sexual area. And then eventually it'll become a very powerful energy for you as that chakra really wakes up, and opens and allows you to experience that kind of thing. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Isn't life beautiful, Stuart?
Yes.
Thanks for being you.
Well, look, I have work to do in the world, my service to God. I'm hoping, with the help of God and all of you, to pass all of the things I have learned on to all of you. That's my job. My job is not to be a swami, a guru, it's to pass on this incredible thing that I learned from Rudy, as purely and as simply and as directly as I can possibly, without any of the ritual and all the other stuff that goes on in spiritual practice, as a direct transmission from him to me to all of you. And it kind of makes life beautiful, You cut out all the bullshit, So much bullshit that you got to do, and you just get right to what has to be done. And I've always, even before I met Rudy, I was like that. I wanted to get to, the core of it, the meat of it. I was never interested in all the glitter and what surrounded it. And I wanted to get right down to the basics. And when I met Rudy, that's what he did. It was basic. It was so basic that it was the most powerful thing I ever confronted in my life. I had to deal with in my life. And it really meant I had to grow. You understand? I had no choice. If I didn't grow, I could have never got his teaching. It was too strong, his teachings. It was too real. And I couldn't just paint a pretty picture around myself and pretend that I was getting his teachings. I knew it. Told me this also 1,000 times.
And that's the understanding that I feel from you. And that's why I respect it so much. Thank you.
You're welcome, dear. God bless you. You're growing beautifully, Julian. I really deeply appreciate the effort you're making in your work. I mean it. Just keep doing it. This is working profoundly for you. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not sure if I understood this right. Rudy mentioned something in his book about that he never even completes a thought. He takes his thoughts into his heart and into the root chakras. Can you talk about that a bit?
Well, that's all I talk about, If you spend your time thinking, your thoughts are going to just drain your energy. But if you bring it into the root, into the core, below the navel, you understand? It will build your energy. It'll open that chakra where the chi is, the power is inside you. So why spend your time just kind of doing, like thinking about spirituality? I think it's like spiritual masturbation, We need to go to the core, to the root. So instead of thinking these things out, you bring the energy down. That's the first thing he ever taught me. The day he showed me the exercise in his store, when he asked me to come back, and that was the first thing he taught me, bringing the attention and focusing it right below the navel. Because if you sit and think about anything, it just drains your energy out of you. I mean, you sit and think for an hour, you'll get much tireder than if you dig a ditch for an hour. It'll drain more energy. But if you bring it down, what he used to say is what's killing you will give you life. Because that drains you, it turns you into a, like, into, I don't know what, into a very strange part of yourself. It's like you're flayed almost. You flay yourself, But if you bring it down, it opens that, it gives you that strength. And then you can receive knowledge, real knowledge that comes from the universe, not in your brain, but it comes from the universe. And if you decide that in your brain you're going to analyze God, you're really in for a tough life. It's going to make you crazy because you'll never figure it out. But if you take it in as energy, it changes your life. You grow, it expands everything in your life. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, then there'll be meditation on Sunday. We have to celebrate Sunday. It's Rudy's Samadhi. You know, it's the 21st of February. So we'll have a special class on Sunday. And, you know, try to really prepare for it and open, you know, to make a profound connection between your inner life and this amazing teacher that we have, who's looking down at all of us and pouring this energy and Shakti into these meditations that we do. So Sunday is that. Also, Sunday is the end of Mercury in retrograde. Thank God. The end of my 24th of January to the 21st of February ordeal I go through every year. So Sunday is a major day. It's a day of celebration. It's a day of rebirth, actually, Sunday. So let's everybody prepare for that. God bless you all, and hopefully I'll see everybody on Sunday. And have a good evening. Bless you. Thank you.